I once was an altar boy at a mental institution here in Philadelphia. We called it Bybury. And I remember the priest said, I don't mind these people except when they touch me. And that turned me off a little bit.
Yes, Chris Matthews. He used to work as an altar boy at a mental institution in Philadelphia. And somehow he escaped. They just told him he was an altar boy. When he got there, he thought he was an altar boy. They let him continue to believe that. They pretended to pay him, so he thought he worked there. Chris Matthews, unwell. He's been unwell for a long, long time. He is, of course, a former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, as so many of them are, or a Democrat administration official or Democrat campaign official. Jake Tapper and Jim Sciutto and Chunk Todd and Chris Matthews and so many others. But Chris Matthews, who didn't he go away because Pound Me Too? Wasn't it Pound Me Too that drove him out? Because he was a groper, right? I'm not saying he's not still a groper, but it happened because he was driven out of NBC, like Matt Lauer, because of his groping. Lots and lots of groping. Matt Lauer had a very advanced system. It was like Marx Brothers system. He had a button under his desk in his big corner office in Rockefeller Center that he pushed, and it locked the double doors so that women couldn't run out of his office while he's chasing him around, Matt Lauer. He had a closet filled with, what's the term? Sex toys. And, hey, Matt, I noticed that your office is vibrating. What's going on with that? Oh, that's nothing. And I tripped the button under the desk to lock the double door so nobody can leave his office. Pretty extraordinary stuff. Chris Matthews, but he reemerged today. And he was on Morning Joke on MSDNC, where he proved once again that he's completely out of his ever-loving mind. The guy is completely nuts. I looked him up this morning just to remember, because the lefties, they all go to the same schools, And he's allegedly from Philadelphia, but that might be a lie, too. He did work at he said, a mental institution there as an altar boy. He went to Holy Cross for his bachelor's degree, and then he allegedly went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and then he lists Harvard University, too, where he learned anti-Semitism and racial discrimination. That's a great school if that's what you want to major in. Harvard, if you want to major in anti-Semitism, really, Harvard, I think, is leading the way once again. And racial division. They love racial division. Aren't they amazing? Yes, sir. The appearance of Chris Matthews, we listened to it this morning. I didn't even watch it. I just listened to it. But it was funny enough. I said, we should, let's reintroduce Chris Matthews to the world, who went away from NBC fake news. Longtime Democrat, right? He worked for Tip O'Neill, the Speaker of the House on Capitol Hill, if I remember correctly. And he's a longtime Democrat Party apparatchik. And then naturally he went into the news media because what else would you do? You're a dedicated party apparatchik and the news media wants you. So let's go to Chris Matthews from this morning on Morning Joke, where Joke Scarborough, along with his third wife, a semi-inflatable flotation device of a wife, Mika Brzezinski, sitting there. And here is Chris Matthews explaining the world to this mentally ill set. You remember the study that I shared with you that parents that self-identify as liberal are much more likely to raise a child with severe mental issues, with mental illness problems. See? That's what we're talking about. Michelle Obama appeared on this podcast, and the podcast it's out of the UK, out of Great Britain, and it is the world's best-known mental health or mental illness podcast, and that's where Michelle Obama was. The mentally ill are a natural audience for the Democrat Party. Speaking of Chris Matthews, here's Chris Matthews this morning on Morning Joke, just being a typical Democrat.
Voters have to get out there and say, damn it, if I'm a young person, if I'm a black person, if I'm out in the streets and I don't trust the cops, I got to vote that way.
What?
I think voters have got to take their hand in this election and don't wait for the government to do it because, this election is going to be close.
I'm sorry, what? You got to take, because the government, what is the government going to do, not do? What are they? Damn it. They're always angry and violent and looting places and rioting and setting cop cars on fire and attacking banks and police stations and police cars. Voters, especially young and black. Now, why would somebody who's black vote differently than someone who's white? And if you're going to choose your party based on your race and you're black, why would you choose the party of the KKK and Jim Crow? Just curious. Because you long for the days of the Confederate States of America, playing Spud, Spud, Spud in the Mississippi mud. What is it that the Democrat Party brings to the dance? So the voters, and if you don't, I need to hear, it's so nonsensical that if you don't trust the cops, you've got to vote that way because the government isn't going to do it for you. Do what for you? If I'm a young person, if I'm a black person, if I'm out in the streets and I don't trust the cops, I got to vote that way. And you don't trust the cops. You're out in the streets and you don't trust the cops. Is that because you're out you got to vote like you don't trust the cops? Now, the Democrat Party is in the process of getting more black people murdered this year because of defunding the police practices, where Washington, D.C., for example, had a 26-year high in homicides. What did Chicago have? Completely off the charts, berserk, nuts. And Chris Matthews, voters, especially young and black, because if you're young, you should vote differently and if you're black, you should vote differently and if you're out on the street, you're young and you're black and you're out on the street, and you don't trust the cops. Sure. Well, with the Democrats, you may be less likely to be arrested, but you're more likely to be murdered. You're more likely to be carjacked. You're more likely to live in a crime-ridden hellhole because the Democrat Party is pro-crime and pro-criminal. And Chris Matthews, that's pretty amazing. That's all Chris had to say today. It's going to be very close to a place like Pennsylvania. And you're going to have rural people out there voting their craziness about the cult. So you better be there to match them. And you got to be there to vote against that. And I'm telling you, this is really important that you vote for your rights. Because rural people don't vote for their rights because rural people are all morons in Pennsylvania. And they're what kind of a cult? It's going to be very close to a place like Pennsylvania. And you're going to have rural people out there voting their craziness about the cult. This is a hate cult and a death cult. They love abortion more than you love life. They love murder. They love the people that shoot people in the streets, and they could care less about the people that are shot in the streets. That's the Democrat Party. And that comes from a former altar boy in a mental institution in Pennsylvania. And the craziness, the rural people, he's from Pennsylvania. But, the Democrats refer to pretty much everything to the west of Philadelphia as Pennsyltucky. That is a slur on Kentucky, a slur on western Pennsylvania, a slur on the American people, a slur against white people. It's a slur, kind of a well-rounded slur by the Democrats. So in Pennsylvania, these rural people voting their craziness cult. What cult is that? The cult that raises boys to be girls and girls to be boys. The cult that funnels hundreds of millions of dollars to Planned Parenthood so that 400 out of every 1,000 African-American pregnancies can be terminated and the organs can be harvested. Is that the craziness of the cult that we're talking about? Or is this the cult that raises their kids to be normal and to join the military and serve their country and flies the American flag in front of the house every day and pays their taxes and doesn't loot places like your criminal cult that is looting our country from sea to shining sea on an ongoing basis, attacking the police. But boy, if you're young and black, you don't trust the police, you're out on the street. Got to fear the rural people voting their craziness, their cult. Wow. That is a hate-filled white boy there.
The Bullocks next door, real right-wingers. American flag up every day. Real fascists. Ought to be gassed. You know the type.
Ought to be gassed. You know the type. That nobody knows that clip except me and Michael. That's William Daniels. William Daniels, famous from, one of those hospital shows. And that's a movie called The President's Analyst. The President's Analyst, which is kind of a sentimental favorite of mine, The President's Analyst, James Coburn. Good stuff. Now, what is it? American flag up every day, real fascists. Calls them fascists, then says they ought to be gassed. It's a comedy. It's not a serious.
And you're going to have rural people out there voting their craziness about the cult. So you better be there to match them.
So you better be. It's war against the rural people because their craziness and their cult, which is normal. Everything normal is in the crosshairs of these cultural assassins known as the Democrat Party. They are truly amazing and hate-filled, angry, hate-filled, crazy bunch of leftists. And they racialize it. He racialized it. He did race, class, gender. He's got and the youth got another way of dividing America because that's what the left does. Just remarkable.
Am I supposed to stop talking?
No, but you can stop groping. Stop groping, and maybe that'd be good. Boy, oh boy. All right, we've got a lot more Democrat crazy to get to because they're on the loose. This is something that was completely ignored when it happened, but it's important. The Democrats, the Biden administration, freed up another $10 billion for Iran, the world's leading state sponsors of terror. And they're taking that money and they're using it to fund, and they're lying about it. We got a Cobble Kirby soundbite on this, I believe, don't we? Cobble Kirby, a disgraced former naval officer, now a big fat liar for the Biden White House. And who asked the question? It was probably Peter Doocy, because who else No, but I kind of missed it. And this was a couple of months ago, the headline in the New York Post: Republicans rip Biden's $10 billion Iran sanctions waiver as reckless and dangerous. Now, why is it just Republicans on Capitol Hill that are not happy about Joe Biden forking over another $10 billion to the world's leading state sponsor of terror, when that leading state sponsor of terror is directly sponsoring, funding, arming, and promoting the attacks on Israel by Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, by Hamas. You got the Houthi rebels and rebels in Yemen, and we're shooting down more drone attacks, more drone attacks. The U.S. military is firing shots. The Houthi rebels are firing shots. We're not going after their bases. We're just letting them do it, hoping that eventually they'll run out of drones and run out of ammo to attack. And the number one state sponsor of Iran is the Democrat Party. Under Barack Obama, tens and tens of billions of dollars freed up for the Iranians to use. Then Joe Biden freeing up another $10 billion for the Iranians to use. And listen to Cobble Kirby lying about it yesterday at the White House. Oh, no, they're just going to buy pancakes and Aunt Jemima syrup. They don't buy Aunt Jemima with the lady on it, though, because they're very culturally sensitive, the Iranians. And amazing stuff. Cobble Kirby at the White House yesterday lying about billions in the hands of the Iranians, the world leading state sponsor of terror, actively sponsoring terror, and these militias in Iraq that are firing hundreds and hundreds of missiles and rockets at our troops there that are there at the invitation of the Iraqi government. And in Syria, they're fighting. We have troops fighting radical Islamic jihadis that are funded by Iran. So Iran is firing at our troops in Syria, firing at our troops in Iraq rather, and it's all being funded by the Democrats. Here's another $10 billion thanks to Joe Biden in the coffers of the Ayatollahs. And here's what Kabul Kirby said.
None of that money goes to the Iranian regime.
Lie.
And none of it goes to the mullahs. It is if it has been allocated against, it would go to approved vendors that would purchase food, water, medicine, agricultural products.
Yeah, they're buying corn. Sure. But as has been pointed out again and again, money is a fungible commodity. And if you give them $10 billion to buy agricultural products, I like the use of the term agricultural products, then that frees up $1 billion over here to buy things to kill Jews and infidels and attack Israel and fund radical Islamic jihadi armies, which are in the news, Kabul Kirby. Extraordinary. Then Kabul Kirby spun a tale about our defense secretary, who is AWOL and missing in action, both at the same time, interestingly. Hey, it's Chris Plant, excited to tell you about our July 2024 Listener Sea Cruise. We'll be sailing around the British Isles, visiting Scotland and Ireland. Please join us. Visit ChrisPlantCruise.com. All right, well, we've got madness going on up on Capitol Hill. A House hearing is going on about holding Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress for his obvious contempt of Congress when he was supposed to testify under congressional subpoena. You remember when Hillary Clinton destroyed 33,000 emails that were under subpoena by Congress. No consequences, absolutely consequence-free. Bleach bit, never mind that. But they're holding a hearing, and the Democrats are going crazy, trying to protect Hunter Biden, calling him brave and stuff. Nancy Mace, Congresswoman Nancy Mace, having none of it.
First of all, my first question is, who bribed Hunter Biden to be here today? That's my first question.
Good question.
Second question, you are the epitome of white privilege, coming into the Oversight Committee, spitting in our face, ignoring a congressional subpoena to be deposed. What are you afraid of? You have no balls to come up here and...
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Mr. Chairman...
If the gentlelady wants to hear from Hunter Biden,
here comes
we can
a
hear from
Nazi,
him right now,
fascist, racist Democrat
trampling
over the congressman.
Hold on.
She should go over and beat the hell out of him.
Are women allowed to speak in here or no? Are women allowed to speak in here or no? Could you keep interrupting me?
That was radical left-wing, sexist, extremist Jared Moskowitz, Democrat congressman from Florida, who has embarrassed himself, but the media will love it. He didn't even shave. You see that? He's not even shaved. And he's turning it into a circus because he's not a liberal. He's a leftist. I'm going to have some good fireworks up there coming up. We have madness going on with Hunter Biden showing up on Capitol Hill. Somebody told him there was free crack and Russian hookers up there, so he showed up the Secret Service detail. He's got a Secret Service detail. Keep the adoring fans away from him. And it turned into such a clown car that Hunter Biden stormed out of the hearing room. It was a mad scrum. The Democrats are all criminals, I think, is the short version. But wait till you hear the exchanges that took place in this hearing room with Hunter Biden. Marjorie Taylor Greene turned to put a question directly at Hunter Biden. He just showed up to pose and posture with his entourage of security and lawyers and presumably Russian hookers and crack dealers, but they haven't been identified yet. Amazing stuff. And Michael is grabbing that audio right now. And we're going to share it with you in just a moment. Right now, as we prep the audio, before we get to the audio, let me go to another phone call. Let's go to Money. Let's go to Money, calling from Columbia, Maryland. Money, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Yes, hi.
Hello, Money.
you have been talking about the regime of Iran, not
Yes.
the people of Iran.
Yes.
Because the people of Iran have been protesting against Palestinians because all their food, their children's food, everything has been going for the last 45 years has been going to Palestinians. It was Yasser Arafat who was the buddy and supporter of Khomeini. And this regime in Iran is not Iranian, it's Palestinian. And it was established by President Carter. CIA declassified are all over the place. You can go online and read about it. This regime was set in Iran by the Democrats. And Iran is not the only one. The reason that Middle East is in war and is in murder and all of that is because of what the Democrats have done. Every time the Democrats have been in charge of this country, they have destroyed the world and they have destroyed American support and respect in the world. Iranians are pro-Israel. Iranian people and Israeli people have been friends since the year of 539 BCE, when the Shah of Iran, Cyrus the Great, it's in the Bible, they can read it who saved the Jews from slavery and sent them home and paid for the rebuilding of the Temple of Jerusalem. And since then, Iranians and Jews or Israelis, they have been friends. We have stood by each other for thousands of years. And if people who have no idea anything, they don't know anything about Middle East, they should know Iran has nothing to do with the rest of the Middle East. President Carter, they assassinated Sadat. As long as Sadat and Shah were in Iran, in the Middle East, everything was peaceful. But now the peace is gone, and the murder and mayhem is taking place.
Now, Mani, now you are originally from Iran, correct?
Yes, I am. I am Iranian.
And now you're a great, proud American citizen.
Yes, I am.
And you would never vote.
Educated in America.
And you would never vote for these. You didn't go to Harvard, though. Tell me you didn't go to Harvard. Did you go to Harvard?
No.
All right, that's good.
No.
That's good. It's best.
USC.
It's best to not go to Harvard. Honestly, it's like a badge of honor to not go to Harvard. All right. So, and you came to the United States, and Mani and I have spoken before, although not for some time. And you're wonderful, and I know that you're a great and proud American. And it sounds like you're not eager to vote Democrat. Would I be right about that?
I have never voted for Democrats because I know what the Democrats are.
And you're right, of course, about the history of Persia and the Persian people. And there's been a Jewish population in Iran forever and ever. And always lived peacefully before the Ayatollahs came along and Jimmy Carter handed the store over to the Ayatollahs and sold out the Shah of Iran and the Pahlavi family. And the Democrats have been a catastrophe on the world stage again and again and again, and they prove it over and over. And Mani, I'm very happy that you called in, and this is an ongoing thing. Now, the Ayatollahs, they're the bad guys, and I appreciate that. The Democrat Party is funding the Ayatollahs and then lying to us about it. It's the quote that I love to use from Elena Gorakova, a Soviet author who wrote her book, A Mountain of Crumbs. And she said about the Soviet Union now, she said, the rules are simple. They lie to us. We know they're lying to us. We know they're lying to us, but they keep lying to us. And that's kind of what we're seeing here in the United States now, isn't it, Mani?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The whole issue is that everybody in the world hates America now. Every time the Democrats are taking the government, the Democrats are in charge, Democrat presidents are in charge. The whole world falls apart.
Yeah.
And their foreign policy. Mrs. Clinton goes to Qatar and makes a deal with Khamenei, but she sits around and talks about human rights. I went to talk to her in a park one day, and she turned around, didn't want to talk to me or listen to me.
Sure.
The Democrats, Americans, please do not vote for any Democrat, because when you vote for Democrat, America is being looked at as colonialist dictators who want to take over your country.
And the bad guys, money.
Outside the country.
Money, wonderful call. Great to hear your voice. You should try giving a lot of money to Hillary Clinton. Then she'd stand there and talk to you. She'd ignore you. Everything you said would be forgotten the moment you walked out of the room. But if you give her a lot of money, then you could talk to her, because they're greedy, corrupt people, and they gravitate to the Democrat Party because they're the left. It's extraordinary. Money, you're wonderful. Thank you very much. Now, I want to get to the Capitol Hill melee that just took place. There was a hearing, and also, Monty, I want to get into Obama and his failures during the Green Revolution in Iran. Obama was a catastrophe for the world, but the New York Times keeps telling us that it's really great. And everything about the Obama administration was really great. Boy, was it not great. Now, let's get to the hearing on Capitol Hill, because Hunter Biden showed up, and he wasn't expected to. So the news media spoozed all over the place, and they can't get enough of just sucking up to and giving tongue baths to every skeevy, diseased Democrat that comes down the pike. Hunter Biden makes surprise appearance at House committee hearing, NBC News is very excited to announce. The votes come after House Republicans released a report recommending Hunter Biden be held in contempt of Congress for defying a subpoena to sit for a closed-door deposition and offering to testify publicly instead. He wasn't subpoenaed to testify publicly, although they said they'd have public testimony later. And he said, screw you. And he showed up with his lawyers and a motorcade, and he was helped out by the Chinese agent, Eric Swalwell, with his longtime sexual affair with Chinese intelligence operative Fang Fang. There was Swalwell out in the parking lot assisting Hunter Biden in committing a felony, which is his contempt of Congress charge. The son of the president arrived on Capitol Hill Wednesday to attend in person a congressional committee meeting called to hold him in contempt of Congress, setting up an unprecedented, they love that word, standoff on live television between Hunter Biden and House Republicans who have long sought his testimony as part of their impeachment inquiry into his father. That's because of all the millions, the tens of millions of dollars that the Biden family has taken from America's enemies. Hunter Biden was accompanied by his attorneys, Abby Lowell, Kevin Morris. He did not respond to questions. You guys didn't ask anything. You didn't respond to questions from Republican members of Congress like Nancy Mace. Now, the Democrats went crazy here. They are anti-democratic, undemocratic, and I got to say the Speaker of the House and the Republican leadership should be pounding the table and calling out the Democrats for being so corrupt. It's a prime messaging opportunity here that they will no doubt miss. So let's go to the mad hearing on Capitol Hill. Jamie Raskin, he's a pirate. He was screaming and yelling and raising hell and defending Hunter Biden, who obviously is guilty of contempt of Congress. He had a congressional subpoena, and he said, well, I'm not going to show up for a closed-door hearing. I'll do it when it's a circus with television cameras and my lawyers shouting down Republican members of Congress, but I'm not going to do it. You know, you don't get to decide when the government subpoenas you. You don't get to say, well, I don't want to show up that day, and I don't want to show up for a closed door. I'll just do it my way. When Congress submits to my terms, then I'll show up. That's not how that works. This is a subpoena, not an invitation to a crack house party, all right? This is not from a Russian house of ill repute to show up and, smoke crack and date hookers. This is a subpoena from Congress. And the news media, they go along with it. Now, let's go to the crazy hearing today. The Republicans in charge of the House of Representatives and the Oversight and Judiciary Committees holding separate committee hearings. Here comes Hunter Biden, and the news media as excited as teenage girls with Elvis showing up on campus. And it sounded, and again, Jamie Raskin and this left-wing radical from Florida, Democrat named Jared Moskowitz, shouting down Congresswoman Nancy Mace, shouting down Marjorie Taylor Greene. The Democrats turn it into an embarrassing, un-American circus because that's who they are.
I think that Hunter Biden should be arrested right here, right now, and go straight to jail. Our nation is founded on the rule of law.
Come on.
And the premise that the law applies equally to everyone, no matter what your last
Point of order,
name.
Mr. Chairman. Point of order.
It doesn't matter who you are.
Now, that's Congresswoman Nancy Mace saying that Hunter Biden, who showed up to be smug and smirk, kind of like Claudine Gay, the president of Harvard, showed up to be smug and to smirk at a congressional hearing. Hunter Biden showed up because he feels that he's bulletproof. His father, he grew up a senator's son. I ain't no senator's son. He could never sing that song. And it's so that was Nancy Mace saying Hunter Biden is here. We're charging him with contempt of Congress. He should be arrested right here. Jamie Raskin starts shouting her down and talking over, which is a violation of rules and protocol.
It does not matter who you are, where you come from, or who your father is, or your last name. Yes, I'm looking at you, Hunter Biden, as I'm speaking to you. You are not above the law.
Nancy
At
Mace.
all. The facts in this case are crystal clear. This committee used and issued a lawful subpoena to Hunter Biden, a critical witness in this committee's investigation into Biden family corruption. Hunter Biden and his lawyers did not claim privilege of any kind because clearly he has none.
Tens of millions of dollars have gone into the Biden family's coffers from countries around the world that are hostile to the United States of America, and we're pretending that there's nothing to see here because our filthy media is more corrupt than any organized crime family in the United States of America. Nancy Mace was en fuego. She's just great today.
Hunter Biden broke the law. He did so deliberately. You did so flagrantly. You showed up on the Hill, on the Senate side, the day of that congressional subpoena to defy it and spit in the face of this committee. That's what you did. The question the American people are asking us is, what is Hunter Biden so afraid of? Why can't you show up for a congressional deposition? You're here for a political stunt. This is just a PR stunt to you. This is just a game that you are playing with the American people.
Now, this turned into such a circus, and it was Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, that turned to Hunter Biden in the room and started asking him questions directly. And then he and his team of lawyers, a phalanx, an entourage of lawyers and adoring media who were licking him as he was leaving the hearing room. They stormed out of the hearing room in a huff, and the news media was out there all giddy like a pack of locusts. And Nancy Mace was just doing great. She's often quite wonderful.
I believe that Hunter Biden should be held completely in contempt. I think he should be hauled off to jail right now, because it wasn't long ago, too, my friends on the other side of the aisle, that you also believed in the power of a congressional subpoena. Not long ago at all. You believed in holding those who refuse to comply with a congressional subpoena accountable.
A Trump aide, Peter Navarro, was accused of contempt, and the FBI ambushed him at Reagan National Airport and put him in handcuffs and leg restraints, dragged him to a jail in Washington, D.C., and threw him in a cell that he was told was used to hold John Hinckley after he shot Ronald Reagan. But Hunter Biden comes up and laughs in the face of Congress because we have two different systems of justice in the United States of America, because the Democrat Party is corrupt, and they've corrupted the Justice Department, and they've corrupted the FBI. And our country has never been as corrupt as it is today, not since electricity came around. If we only had a news media They put him in leg restraints, handcuffs at the airport. He was already in conversations with them, said, anytime you want me to come down to talk, I'll come down. And they said, okay. And then they ambushed him at the airport after tracking his movements, spying on him. Hunter Biden comes up and smirks because he's like Uday Hussein in Baghdad in the bad old days. We're living in very, very corrupt times in a very corrupt country. We're going to get back to the congressional hearing. Marjorie Taylor Greene turned to ask Hunter Biden a question directly since he showed up to smirk smugly like the son of Saddam Hussein in the congressional hearing room. And when Marjorie Taylor Greene turned to him, he got up with his phalanx of highfalutin lawyers with their private jets and stormed out, smirking at the girls, thinking maybe they're Russian prostitutes. But I will get back to that. And Marjorie Taylor Greene stood up to ask him a question, and they fled. Nancy Mace had something to say about that. Then the lawyer, Abby Lowell, went outside and did, the big lawyer lie, rambling with his lawyer lie about those terrible Republicans. Tens of millions of dollars into the Biden family coffers from America's enemies all over the world, from China to Russia and beyond. But never mind that. All right. And before we get back to that, let's, I love to run out the clock on myself, don't I? I don't really have time to do a caller justice, and I like the calls on the line, but I like John Brennan, the CIA director, about that. So we'll get to that. We're going to update you on that and what happened on Capitol Hill with Hunter Biden and the Democrats being as corrupt as they are, and they see corruption anywhere, and they will defend it as long as it's Democrat Party corruption. Doesn't matter what it is. They could, shoot their political enemies in the middle of Fifth Avenue and wouldn't lose a Democrat vote on Capitol Hill. Also, our border, we've already had 34 on the terror watch list caught on our border this year, just this year. It's pretty amazing. It's January 10th. Your Democrat Party, they are not on our side. And where is the Secretary of Defense? Coming up.